Hello friends. So moving on and continuing from where we had left, we had created data source views. Uh, Now we get to the most important part, that is building the dimension. So this is the heart of the SSASQ project, because uh, the cleaner or the steadier dimensions that you prepare, the best your cubes or data would look like in terms of analytics. So most of the work that is done is should be focused on the dimensions, and we should have a very clean elegant dimension structure. So that is where we start from. Now just to take a look, we had in my last video I had shown you that we had used this query to identify the products and their category and subcategory. uh, while the dim product has 606 records, uh, as you can see, this query returns 397 records. So there is some problem somewhere, right? So the problem is there are some products which do not have a subcategory identified. So if we write this query, we get 209 records which are not under subcategory, and eventually they do not have a particular category. So both of these values, that is their subcategory and category, are unknown. They are products lying orphans. So if we use this query, we find that actually we have 606 records. So union of these two gives you the complete record count of the table. So that is to show you that we need to use to be able to perform analytics on the unknown category and subcategory members. For other dimensions, we need the particular table or the base tables. So in the data source view, what I have done is I have removed the named query and replaced them with the original tables, and then this forms our data source view. Now moving on, let's go to the dimension, click on a new dimension, and a wizard pops up for a new dimension creation, and then we uh, go on to the next. We get several options. So we get to generate a time table in the data source view on the server, and to generate non-timetable data source. So I'll explain this when we go and use the time dimension, when we build the time dimension. For now, we should be using an existing table. So we go with the option use the existing table, and next we are uh, asked to select the data source views, the tables, etc. So the data source view remains what we have built so far, and then the main table that we want to now is say dim product. We want to build the dimension on the dim product table. So there you see it identifies the primary key automatically, and it says product key. Alternatively, if it doesn't, you can actually identify it yourself. Now you also have a name column option. What does this mean? While the product key here identifies the primary key, we can add a descriptive value. I mean, the product key would add a little relevance to our data when we start digging it out. So what we want is we want some sort of a descriptive name. So we should select a descriptive name. We go with English product name, and next, so it automatically identifies the dependent dimension tables, that is the subcategory and the category. So we check both of them and then move on. Now what it does here is it populates all the columns from both of these tables and selects the primary key automatically. So let's see what other informations would we like to add. So let's go with the color, the standard cost, we say the size, and also let's add the English product subcategory name. Let's add the product category name, and okay, so that's it, right? If you see, the product English name is not populated, since we have already mapped the product key here with the product English name in the prior section. So that's not populated, so we are good, we should be good with these selections, and apart from that we have a standard cost, and then we have enable browsing uh, field. Now what does this mean is we would like to browse these values against the measures. So let's the standard cost doesn't seem a value suitable for browsing. It is just for an informative purpose. So let's uncheck this enable browsing option, and we'll see what difference does this make once we have the dimension in place. We go on next, and this is a name that you can, this is the name for your dimension. Let's call it dim product for now, and we are done. So a dimension is built, and what we see is a .dim file that has been created under a dimensions folder, and there are three uh, different sections: attribute, hierarchies, and data source views for this dimension that is shown here. Perfect. So that's the dimension that has been built. Now we have the four tabs: attribute, relationship, translation, and browser. We'll see each of them. For now, let's process this dimension first and see what does this look like, because in the browser you would not be able to uh, access it once before you process. So let's try to process this. Taking a closer look, what you see here is while the dimension is being processed, it does aggregation. So if you see the product key, there are 607 values. Product category, there are 5 distinct values. So it does a distinct record count and then aggregates the value likewise. So we close this, we go to the translation, reconnect, refresh, and now if you go and see, what you see is the product key. First of all, the product key, although we had a numeric value for product key, we will have the names, the descriptive name. This is because we have added a column named description. And next we go on to select product category. While you go for product category, you'll get numerics because we have not done any mapping for the descriptive names in the name column. Similarly for subcategory also you'll get numbers. So if we did not map the product key with a named column, we would have actually seen a numbers similar to what we are seeing in product category and subcategories. Then we move on to colors. We get different colors from the table, the distinct values, likewise for size as well. So now what we do here is this is our initial dimension and the browser that has shown. Now if you look at the standard cost, what you see is there is a gray beside is there's a gray tile. So basically the gray tile descriptive information is it describes that you would not be able to browse it. So basically in the browser you would not see the exploration option where you can explore the value for your standard cost. However, when I go with the product key, I can actually add the standard cost and get some of the descriptive information. What was the standard cost for this product, right? So it adds a little sense, although you cannot browse it by standard cost because that doesn't make sense for me to go and do that. Next is you can use a member filter where you can say name, color, and then use an operator or a value. So basically if I can show you, uh, you have a color, let's try to add a value. We can say equals black. So we just get the black option. So that's all. So if I can, I guess it's, yeah, so we have to use the way I did. So we just get, let's try this as well. Yeah, so it brings out the black. So it shows you that we have put a filter. Anyways, So now moving on, that was the description for standard cost. Now if you go ahead and see, let's try to, we are getting a lot of columns which are not required actually. So if I go ahead and use, let's see the properties for product key. What we see here is at the bottom we see the key column is the primary key, product key, and the name column is the English product name. So likewise, let's try to change the product key category key also. What we do here is, it is having the key, let's select English product category name. For subcategory as well, let's try to put the name in there, right, and that's it. So now if we process the cube, we would not be seeing the number, we'll see the descriptive information, which will make some sense to us. So let's go back, reconnect, refresh. If we go by product category, we see the descriptive information. The subcategory also describes the information. Now the important thing is, for some of the values in the table which is not having any mapped, it's showing unknown. So right, for product subcategory and category, you get the value unknown. So there are few records which are unknown. So the thing about this is, uh, on the dimension itself, if you hit the properties, what you see here is an unknown member. So currently it says visible, so you are able to see that visible, and also if I would want to identify with the unknown member with a different name, I call it unknown value. So I change this and let's reprocess. So what we get is, now the unknown value would distinctly be named as unknown value, and next let's reconnect, right there. So again, if we do, this is the visible option. We have three options here: hidden and none. So hidden would mean we would hide the unknown member values, so they would not be visible, and they would be suppressed. So let's process and check that. It's gone. So there is no the unknown values are not visible. And the other option, the third option, is when is none. That means whenever you get an unknown value, it would throw an error and the processing would fail. So you can use either of them. If you have a very tightly coupled or a tightly integrated database solution where you already know that the values should not be and will not be null, you can go with the none option. Ideally, when you have a null value, you go with a visible or a hidden option with an identified you unknown member name, as I have denoted. So currently I put it to visible, and that's it. Now the second thing would be, as you can see, the product category and the subcategories and everything looks quite good. I mean, we do not need these two columns, right? So basically we can delete this. We do not need this anymore. We delete this, and let's try to rename. We call this product, we call this, let's call this product category, and let's call this product subcategory. Isn't it? It's looking very clean and sleek now. Now there is a squibble. What does this blue squibble means? Create hierarchies in non-parent child dimension. That's what it is saying. So here we see there is a hierarchy window. Let's try to create a hierarchy that we can. So currently what we can clearly see is product by its category and subcategory. So what we do here is we select the product category, and pull this out onto the hierarchy window, pull the subcategory and then pull the product. So let's give it a name. We call it product by category. So let's create one more hierarchy. Let's create color size. Let's say we say size by color, right? Right. So we are done. So now now if we process, there is a squibble again for the hierarchy. The attribute relationships do not exist between one or more levels of this hierarchy. This result may decrease the performance. That's what it says. We'll come to that. So far we've done. Now let's process this dimension. We're done. So let's go to the browser, reconnect. Now we see the product by category and size by color also. So we have the product. So this is the product, this is subcategory. As you can see, this is product category, it identifies. This is product subcategory, and when you click you get the product. So you can clearly see how the hierarchy gives you the values. So those are your products. Now as we had seen the unknown value member, there are so many products which do not belong to any subcategory and eventually category. So that is why we should actually also check the data and include the unknown member values, because if you put this to hidden or none, first of all it would have failed for none, and secondly if it would have been hidden you would skip so many products, and and you would not be able to do any analytics on these values. So right, now let's go to color. What we see is we get all the colors, unknown values, we get the colors, and then we have the sizes. So what is the difference here? So there are two hierarchies that we have seen. This is a product by category. Although there is no squibble on the product by category, there is one on size by color. Why is it so? Now in dimensions or in hierarchies, what we have is a natural and an unnatural hierarchy. What do I mean by a natural hierarchy? Product by category here says that each of the product will belong to only one category, subcategory, and eventually to one category. So what does this mean is each of the child will have only one parent always. So there would not be any product which will be a duplicate in terms of their parent values. So what do I mean by that is, if you look here, size by color, what do you see? The size 44 is also belonging to a blue and to a black. Size 46 belongs to a blue and belongs to a black. That means each of the child members have more than one parent. So this is in definition an unnatural hierarchy. While product by category is a natural hierarchy, each of the products belong to a subcategory and eventually to one category always. So that is why if you go to the attribute relationships, we have these attribute relationship. The SSAS is already identified on its own. You can as well change this, edit the relationship, but it has already identified the relationship between your product and their subcategory, and also product subcategory and their category. It has already done that. Now since we have already said that it is a natural hierarchy, there is always a product mapping to a subcategory and the category, we can as well make this relationship type to rigid. That means we know that the roll up of these values will always be one and only one. While we cannot do so, we cannot change this, we cannot, okay, for instance, I delete this and I set up a new, I cannot do this, I simply cannot do this, this would fail. So because this is an unnatural hierarchy, so I need to map it like this. So I hope I'm very clear on this attribute relationships, and now this squibble is there, and we do not and we cannot do anything about it because it's logically it's an unnatural hierarchy, so we should ignore this for now, that's all. Next, on this dimension, what we see is avoid visible attribute hierarchies for attribute used in user defined hierarchies. So we can do something about it. Now what does this mean is, in the browser we are using product by category and size by color. Still we have these colors, products, subcategories and sizes, everything. So we do not need them. The SSAS is prompting us, we do not need them. So what we do is go here, you have a property attribute hierarchy visible, you set this to false, set this to false for all of them. That's all. Now you see the squibble is gone, there is no issues now. So let's reprocess this one last time. I mean, if you create proper hierarchies, the processing time will be very fast, very limited, and your execution and data would also look a lot elegant. So use hierarchies as much as you can. So now if you see, the other columns are completely gone because we changed the property. We just have two hierarchies. So by category we have the values by category, and then we have the size by colors. So only these two values will be these two hierarchies will be visible, since we have created these hierarchies, and the column explicit columns are no more visible for us to browse. So I hope this blog, the initial dimension introduction, is very clear, and we have discussed natural and unnatural hierarchies very clearly. We have discussed how to change the names of these, and then also how to browse unknown members we have already discussed. So these are the important dimension details, and this was the first dimension that we have created so far. Next we would be moving on and looking at the time dimension. That would be the next in my next blog following this. Thank you friends, I hope you've liked this tutorial. If you have, sincerely please subscribe to my channel. Thank you.